Hello again, guys. So I'm taping this video at the RV park somewhere north of Baltimore City. So we've been here in Baltimore City for about 10 days and we're about to head up to Saranac Lake. And we've just been down here doing paperwork and all of that kind of stuff. Yay! Proof that no matter how nomadic or whatever your life is like, at the end of the day, you will always have to deal with bureaucracy. Yippee, yippee, yippee. So anyways, what I want to talk to you guys today about is rejection as a technology professional, because one of the things that I've seen tank so many tech careers is people not being able to handle rejection. And they do not handle rejection well, and one of two things happens again and again and again. Either one, they get rejected and then they take it as like a personal failure on their part, and then they get sad and then they get depressed and then they spiral down until they don't do anything, which is worthless, because again, as I've told you guys, more or less, you can't fail as long as you keep moving forward. As soon as you stop moving forward, that's when everything goes to hell. And it's not that you fail, it is that you give up. So as long as you don't give up, you're gonna make it somewhere. I don't know where you're gonna make it, but you're gonna make it to somewhere that's not where you're at now. You're gonna make it to a better life. But the problem is if you give up, well, then the game's over. You can't move ahead if you stop walking forward, right? So the first thing that I see, the problem that I see with people when they're dealing with rejection is they take this, they take rejection as a personal failure on their part. They go for a job and they're not accepted for it, and they, instead of simply thinking, oh no, I wasn't qualified for the job, or oh no, the person didn't like me for the job, they go, oh, this is proof that I am not good enough. And if I'm not going to be good enough, I might as well go back to flipping burgers or something, right? And this happens a lot, especially with you newbies, right? By the time you've been in the profession a while, you get over this. But one of the big problems when you're new in this field, right? When you've got that shiny new A+, it's really not worth anything. You got that Net Plus, it's not worth anything. You got that MCSA, that's worth a couple of cents, right? You go out there and you're like, look, I'm awesome. And then you find out, no, you're not awesome. You're barely employable. And then you go out there and you put out a few resumes and then you get rejected. And if you take that first 3 or 4 or 5 rejections and then you say, well, there's obviously no jobs, then you're not going to be able to move forward, right? Because it may take you 10, 100, 1,000 attempts in order to get the job or to get the client or to whatever else. And that's the thing, is you have to keep pushing through. So the first problem that I see with rejection is you get rejected and you're like, oh, look, this proves that I am not good enough, and then you go off and do something else, right? The other problem that I see with rejection is, again, people take this crap way too personally, and you see this a lot in the comments whenever I answer questions from you guys. They take it way too personally, and then they become out and out assholes. Not asshats, not douches. Again, I'm trying to be careful with my words here, and let me tell you, sometimes people, when they get rejection of any sort, they just become assholes. I could add a whole bunch of words to either side of that, but just massive, massive assholes. And the problem that then happens when you become a massive asshole is because then you make it personal for the other side, right? So if I am an employer, if I'm a potential client, if I'm a potential whatever else, and I reject you for whatever reason, it's really not personal. Again, as I say, when I used to have my computer repair shop, every time I put out a help wanted ad on Craigslist for a computer repair technician, I got 30 resumes, absolute minimum. I put out a thing for a secretary or an admin assistant, I got 50 resumes. So, 29 of those people that got rejected, it was not personal whatsoever. And I can tell you it wasn't personal because a lot of the resumes I didn't even read, right? When you have that many resumes to go through, you're just scanning through and you're just trying to weed through that many people. So a lot of times you just, I don't know, you didn't like the name, you didn't like the font. I'm telling you, font is one of the biggest killers for getting a job. You're like, oh, that's an ugly font, right? And so if I reject you, it's not a personal thing. It is, I have one position available. There are 30 applicants for the position, which means 29 are going to be rejected. But the problem is, and this is what you see so much, is that people take it personally. This is now an insult against them. And then they start railing, and then they start getting angry, and then they start getting pissed off, and they start saying horrible things. And here's the thing, originally, it wasn't personal between me and you. You just got rejected because that's how the numbers worked out. But then you start being an asshole to me after I've rejected you, and then you've now made it personal for me. And one of the things that I keep trying to explain to you guys is I know we're all equal in the spaghetti monster's eyes. You know, when we pass from this life to the next and we are faced with a spaghetti monster, we will be equal on that playing field. On this playing field, we are not equal. Some people have checkbooks and some people ask for checks, right? And so if you piss off the person that is writing checks, they're just gonna stop dealing with you. And again, not only are they gonna stop dealing with you, but then they're gonna go have a beer with the other business owners they know and be like, oh, let me tell you about this asshole I was dealing with today. And again, although blacklists, for the most part in the real business world, there's not normally official blacklists. I mean, there are some, like with Apple, some of the major companies. But like in the smaller world, in the local world, it's not that there's the official blacklist. It's just there's these names of people that you don't deal with. And again, if you come to a certain level, if we're talking about you at happy hour after the workday is done, you're not going to be getting a job, you know what I'm saying? So that's two of the problems with rejection. Now, the thing that you have to understand, again, being in the technology field, is you're going to be dealing with rejection a lot. And it is difficult, it is hard, especially one of the problems that I see with old timers like me talking to new people is we talk about some of these concepts and it's so old hat for us that we forget how painful it used to be. And so a lot of times we say these things, you know, don't worry about rejection, don't worry about failure, it's no big deal. And you look at that, and then again, like I say, then you start getting nervous because you're like, well, this successful person doesn't think it's any big deal, and I think it's the end of the world. Oh, that obviously means I shouldn't be in the profession. And the reality is, it's at one point, remember, you know, at one point I was 19 years old. At one point I was 23 years old. At one point, all of this stuff seemed like really big, insurmountable, horrible stuff. The thing is, what you have to realize is as time goes by, you just get used to it. So one of the things that you really have to understand whenever we're talking about the technology profession, right, is, you know, again, old timers like me, you know, we talk about going out there and making a zillion attempts. You know, for every 100 attempts, you'll get one sale. It's really easy to forget. What that really means is that you're going to get 99 rejections, right? Because we always try to focus on the positive, especially in the business world, we focus on the positive. So we say you have, in order to get one sale, you have to go out and talk to 100 people. And so that sounds very motivational. Oh, okay, I go out and talk to 100 people and I get one sale because you're focusing on that success. Well, in order to have that one success, that means you also have to have 99 failures or rejections, right? You have to have 99 people that basically tell you to go to hell. And they will tell you to go to hell in many different ways. Some will smile at you and listen to you and then just not return your phone call. Some will give you snide remarks or be mean. Some will lead you on to get information out of you. There's just a whole bunch of ways that you'll get rejected. But the reality is that you're going to have 99 rejections a lot of times for one success. And then one of the issues we run into, right? Because, you know, whenever we're talking about this math, what I've noticed with humans, myself included, so whenever we talk about math, we always think of math in best case scenarios, right? So every 100 people that I talk to, I'll get one sale. So it's very easy to think about that sale being front loaded. So I'll talk to 5 people, make a sale, and then I'll talk to 94 more people, not make a sale, and then talk to another 10 and make a sale, right? You know, there's that thing like, okay, all I have to do is make that first sale. Well, what you have to realize is when we start talking about averages, right? So we're talking about averages. You know, every 100 people you talk to, you'll make one sale. Well, here's how this can work in the real world. What happens when you talk to 297 people and get rejected, and then the final 3 are the ones that actually close a sale? That's one of the things that people never talk about. You know, I talk to you guys about pounding the pavement. You say, how am I going to start a computer repair business? And I say, don't. You know, you say, how am I going to start a web design business? How am I going to start a surveillance system business? How am I going to start one of these kind of businesses? And what I tell you guys, you got to go out and pound the pavement. So when I used to go out and pound the pavement, knock, 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 you know, computer repair, knock, 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 computer repair, knock, 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 computer repair, you know, I found the math for me was every 3 hours equaled 1 client. Sadly, it was just 1 client. It wasn't 1 business client or 1 residential client. Just overall, I found every 3 hours, I found 1 person that wanted to buy services from me. Sometimes it was an hour or 2, and sometimes it was a really big ass business, right? Well, one of the things that gets lost in that, when I talk about that, is that there really were times when I would go 3 days of pounding the pavement and knocking on doors. I would go 20 plus hours and not make a single sale. And then in 1 hour, I make 3 appointments. And that's one of the issues that you run into too. Like I say, when we're talking about rejection, is we always think about it as like, yeah, okay. Well, if I go out and talk to a couple of people and I make a sale, then I'll feel motivated, then I'll feel good, and then I'll continue on. And the issue is, especially when you're brand new, when you're brand spanking new in this field, you're just going to have to realize you're going to get rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection. And what's going to get you through the hurdle, what's going to get you through those 297 people or 500 people or 1,000 people, right, is you're going to have the drive to actually want to get the job done, right? So we were talking about motivation before. So I did a video on motivation. Was it the last video? Video before last. And one of the things I was saying with the idea of, how do you stay motivated in this field? And kind of my last bit when I was talking about that is that I said, I don't really think motivation has a whole hell of a lot to do with it. All right. Whenever we're talking about motivation, normally when we're talking about motivation, motivation is what keeps you going when you're in the plateau period of any kind of project. So motivation generally comes about where in the beginning of a project you're all excited and it seems like the sky's the limit and it's great and it's wonderful and you don't get any sleep at night and you're all like rah, 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 right? That's the beginning. And so you don't need to worry about motivation in the beginning because you're all excited about what's going on. And then you have the end of the project, whatever the end looks like. And at the end, that's where there's the payoff. That's where you get the check. That's where you exit the company. That's where all the cool, sexy stuff happens. So you don't really need to worry about motivation there because you don't need motivation when people are throwing money at you. You know what I'm saying? Motivation is normally that middle period where you go from having the idea, setting everything up, and then you get into that middle period of where it's just a slog. You just have to iterate 1,000 times. And iterating 1,000 times, even when you may not be making a paycheck, that's what really sucks, and that's why you may need motivation, right? So I talked about motivation before, and I was saying for the most part in technology world, motivation isn't what you're really looking for. What you're really looking for is drive and determination, right? It's not motivation. And drive is when you personally believe in what you're doing. You believe in what you're doing to such a degree that you do not care what all the naysayers say, that you do not care about rejection. You believe to the core of your being that you have the greatest idea, that it is worth all the money that you are asking and that you will be successful. So one of the things, like when we're talking about rejection, if you're starting to get really sad from rejection, if rejection is really hurting you and you're thinking about possibly giving up, one of the things that you may consider is in fact giving up. Maybe your idea kind of sucks. You know what I'm saying? This is one thing that nobody really talks about a lot, where, you start out and you have this idea and you have this concept and you go out there to sell it. If you go out there to sell it and you get rejected 10 times or 20 times, and that is enough to really dent your self-esteem, that is really enough to be like, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. One of the things that you may think about is that, in fact, it's not a good idea. And that's the big thing. Again, as I talk about, with any of my businesses, one of the things that you do in business is you go out and you throw ideas against the wall. Does this work? Does this work? Does this work? Who will pay for that? Will you pay for this? This may be a great idea, but nobody wants to pay for it, right? So if you're going out there and you're getting that rejection, and it's really hurting, it's really like, you're like, yeah, maybe this is a bad idea. If you're starting to think that maybe it's a bad idea, the first thing to consider is that maybe it in fact is a bad idea, right? Maybe people are telling you something. They always say, maybe the world is telling you something. You need to listen. If you go out there and you're talking to all these people and they say, nah, that's a really horrible idea, maybe it's a really horrible idea. But if you go out there and you really believe, you really have drive, you really have determination, you're like, no, this person doesn't think it's a good idea, but I know I'm going to find somebody out there that will think this is a good idea, then you just have to keep going out there. And again, as I say, pound the pavement. And now, this is the big thing. One of the big problems that I see with people trying to go out there and trying to do sales is you have to realize, when I talk about pounding the pavement, I really do talk about interfacing with hundreds or thousands of people. This is a really big problem that I see with people when they deal with rejection. As they go out there, they talk with 5 companies and they go, Eli, I went out, Eli, I went out and I pounded the pavement and I talked with these companies and none of these companies wanted what I had to offer. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's talk about this. So how many companies did you talk to? Eli, I went to 5. and then I'm going to look at you. Get the hell out the door. Go talk to 50. Go talk to 100. Then come back, and then we can discuss it. So that's one of the issues that I see with a lot of you guys, is you go out there, fine, you talk with your 5 people or 10 people or 20 people, and then you come back, oh, I didn't make the sale. One of the things that you just simply have to realize is you have to be realistic about the numbers that are involved here. If you're going to be going out to sell yourself for any kind of these projects, you're going to have to be talking hundreds and thousands of people. 1,000 people should know what your name is. If you're really going to go out there, if you really believe you have the next Facebook, or you have the next YouTube, or you have the next whatever dog dating site, you really have to believe that this is something that is powerful, that people are going to want, and you need to go out there and you need to talk to as many people as you possibly can. You go knock on doors, you do meetups, you do business networking events. You're just out there constantly pounding the pavement, and you do not give up until you're successful. You don't give up, and again, it's giving up, it's not failure. You don't give up until either A, you're successful, or B, you have literally gone through every place you could go through. If you've gone to every single meetup that you can go to for the past 6 months, if you've knocked on every door that you can knock on, if you've gone to the flea markets and you've handed out flyers, if you've put up posters on bulletin boards in all the colleges and universities and cafes, if you've done all of that and you haven't gotten any bites, well, then it's time to give up. Or again, if you just simply go out there and you realize, you know, I am just not feeling this, then again, like I say, that's a time to feel it. But you need to go out there and you need to get this idea about how large the numbers are. Because again, the issue that we run into in business, especially with new people, is people focus on the wrong number. Or they focus on the number that's not appropriate for them right at this point in time, right? So for me, being a consultant, if I was going to go back out into the world and be a real consultant, the number that I'm focused on would be 10 or 20. So if I go out at the rate that I can charge, I only need 10 or 20 business clients at the most. Like 20 at the absolute most, 10, depending on how much I trust the clients, maybe even down to 5 if I was going to go out and be a consultant again. Because I know how much I can bill out, I know what I'm worth to the world, so I can go out there. And as I tell you guys, you don't actually need that many clients. You know, for some of you guys, you may only need 50 clients, or you only may need 20 clients. You don't need thousands and thousands and thousands of clients to be successful. You just need those few. The problem is you guys focus on just needing those few, and you don't focus on how many hundreds or thousands of people you may have to talk to in order to get those few, right? So you go out there and you're like, all I need, Eli, all I need is 30 clients, and then I'm set. And then you go out and talk to 20 people that all reject you, and then you give up. It's like, well, you didn't even talk to 30 people yet. You need to go out and talk to 300 or 3,000 people. Then, right? And that's the big thing. Again, also with this field is, remember, you just have to have a win. It doesn't really matter when the win is. It doesn't really matter how long it takes you to get the win. It doesn't really matter how many rejections you have before the win. Again, you only need 10 or 20 clients. You only need 10 or 20 investors. You only need however, you know, whatever number. So if you just go out there and you just hammer away, all you're looking for is those wins. Once you get to that whatever number that you need to get to, you will be good, right? So that's a big thing to remember with rejection, is again, you're going to go out there and you are going to get rejected a lot, just a tremendous amount. So you just got to keep running through it. Now the big thing when we're running through, you know, going out there doing the sales job or whatever, how we're going to do, is that you cannot take this stuff personally. Right? You simply can't. Again, when you're talking with hundreds of people, when you're talking with thousands of people, when you're going out there, you can't take it personally. You have to keep it on that business professional level. That's one of the things I keep telling you guys. Keep it business. Keep it on the professional level. Again, I do this whole Silicon Trailer thing, and I say, I don't want to meet fans, and I don't want to meet people that want to be my friend. And one of the reasons is because you're going to come and you're going to talk with me, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about your idea. Exactly what I think about your idea. And this is from my years experience hanging out with business people, right? I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say this is exactly what I think. And here's the thing, if you take that information and then you digest it and then you move on, you'll be successful. if you take it personally, if you say somebody like me is like, Eli's an asshole. He destroyed my... Doesn't he know how long I've put into this idea? You know, how much work I've put into this idea? Doesn't he know how much money I've put into this idea? Doesn't he know how much effort I put into this idea? And yet he just shreds it. Well, I shredded it because the idea was stupid. It doesn't matter how long you've put into it. It doesn't matter how much money you put into it. It doesn't matter how much resources you put into it. Is it a solid idea or not? And here's the thing. If you can go in to meetings like that, you can take the criticism, you can take the rejection, and you can move on. Then you can listen to what's being said. It's like, okay, well, Eli said that if I'm trying to sell this product, it's too expensive. Or Eli said, you know, if I'm trying to sell this product, that I need more employees, and that'll be more expensive. You know, you can go back and be like, how can I tweak this? Versus if you take it personally, then it becomes, well, Eli's an asshole. Well, Eli's a piece of crap. Well, Eli's just an asshat. He's just... But here's the thing, right? Your opinion of me doesn't change your idea. If I sit there and I itemize, and that's what happens at Silicon Valley. When you come and you talk to me, I tell you exactly. I itemize what I think about your idea. If I itemize, you know, all the issues that I see, and that the only takeaway that you take from that meeting is that I'm an asshole, that doesn't change your product. Calling me an asshole doesn't make your product any more saleable. Calling me an asshole doesn't push any more widgets out the door. Calling me an asshole doesn't reduce your cost per acquisition, right? Calling me an asshole is just now personal, right? And so that's one of the things when you go out there and you're dealing with people is you have to get out of the personal realm. Again, we talk about in business, you know, it's not personal, it's business. And in business, that really is how it is. Again, you know, some of the people that I care about the most, right? Some of the people that I care about the most, that their opinions are very, very valuable to me. I don't ask them any business questions at all, right? These are people that I like. These are people that I respect. These are people that, you know, I care about, and I never ask them any business questions. And if they give me any business advice, I ignore them, right? Because that isn't valuable to me. Because although I have a personal relationship with them, their business acumen may not be the best. Whereas in the business world, there are a lot of true assholes that I deal with, but I listen to them a lot, and we discuss things. And we don't even have to like each other, right? That's one of the things like a lot of you noobs don't even realize is in the world, I deal with a lot of people that I don't like. And it's not just that I don't like them, they don't like me. Who the hell knows? It's pheromones or whatever else. But we still interact with each other. We still do business with each other. We still discuss things because what is important is the idea. What is important is the concept. What is important is the product or the widget. You know what I'm saying? So if I sit down with somebody, I may like somebody's company, but not like them. So they come to me for a sponsorship arrangement because they want to sponsor their product. I like the company, I respect the company, the person that I'm actually dealing with I don't particularly like, but it's just business. We can just do business, do the transaction without getting into that impersonal realm. And that's a huge issue that I see with, especially like I say, with those young people, is that there's this idea that's all supposed to be personal. We're all supposed to like each other. We're all supposed to be happy. If we don't like each other and we're not happy with each other, then what's wrong? It's like, it doesn't matter, right? It's not the personal thing. So if you can take it out of the personal realm, life is just simply going to work a lot better for you. Now, when you're going out there and you're going to be dealing with all this rejection, you're going to be dealing with a lot of rejection. I just want to hammer that into your head, right? You are going to be dealing with a lot of rejection. One of the things that you need to realize when you're going out there is that as a technology professional, right, what we are doing is we are providing services so that other people can run their businesses or organizations better, that they can improve basically the profit. We go to companies to improve the profit. So one of the things that we have to realize is that we are always being hired by the company for whatever whims that they have. So one of the issues that I see with a lot of, especially new people, is again, they worry about me. Me, what I want, which is irrelevant. Nobody gives a damn what you want, right? Here's the thing, when you get your paycheck, You take your paycheck and then you buy whatever you want, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, your spouse cares about you, your pets care about you, your parents care about you. In the business world, nobody cares about you. So one of the issues that I see is this whole me thing. So the problem is that people, let's say you're working in a company, right? And you like the company. This is one of the biggest problems I see with tech professionals, is that this is why their career doesn't go forward, is they like the company. For whatever reason, it's a really, really good company, and it has good benefits, and it has good pay, and it has good this, and it has good that, and it has a good other thing. The issue is, though, you've been on the help desk for the past 3 years. Right? Now, in our career, you have to be moving forward. In our career, you have to be moving forward. You should always, so you should spend maybe 2 years at most in help desk, then you should go to maybe 2 years desktop support, and then go to junior admin, and then go to admin, and then go to project management. Every 2 years, you should be moving up. One of the issues that I see is that people say, well, what I want an administrator job at the company that I'm working at. And you're like, well, but you can't get that job. Maybe there's only a certain number of positions, and everybody likes that job so much that they're not leaving it. Maybe the head of that department doesn't particularly like you. Maybe you don't have skill sets that particularly mesh. But for whatever reason, you're with the company. You're like, the only thing that I'm going to do is I want that particular position. And then the issue that you run into is you get rejected from that position, and then you sit exactly where you are and you don't move forward because I want that. So one of the things that you have to be thinking about is, again, if you're getting rejected from things, is changing who you're going after, changing who you're looking, if you're going to have a job. Right? I want to be an admin. If the company you're at isn't going to be hire you to be an admin, then at some point it is time to move on. A lot of people, they just get this thing that they just keep beating their head against the wall. I want to be an admin at this company, and I'm going to do it at all costs. And it's like, but you're not getting the job. Move on at a certain point. So one of the things with the rejection is, again, move on. I see people that just won't take no for an answer. And being able to take no is a huge thing in our field. If somebody says no to you, maybe you ask a couple of questions, you ask a couple of follow-up questions, and then you move on. Because there's this idea that willpower alone, this person, they just have to know how good I am. This person, they just have to know how likable I am. This person, they just have to know. And it's like they're saying no for whatever reason. So you can push that a little bit, obviously. But a lot of people, they just get hung up. They're sitting there and they think, this is what I want. And then even though they've been rejected 1 time, 2 times, 5 times, a dozen times, they keep trying to go after that specific thing because they're fixed on that. And the issue is if you're fixed on that one sale, if you're fixed on that one promotion, you're not looking around to move your way forward. And the reality is as they say in life, there might be something better around, right? A lot of people are like, no. And then they don't look at the startup company down the street. They don't look at the other company that's hiring for the exact same position and is paying 25% more. They don't look at all of these other possibilities. So the first thing is, don't get fixated on any one sale. Don't get fixated on any one possible opportunity, because a lot of times you're just gonna bang your head against the wall. And what I'm gonna tell you, honestly, like I say, sometimes when you don't get a client or sometimes when you don't get hired for a job, as I was just talking about before, that whole pheromone thing, sometimes people just don't like you. It's not fair and it's not right. We don't like to think about things that way, but a lot of times you don't get hired simply because people don't like you. They don't like the look of your face. They don't like your smell. They don't like your accent. They don't like the clothes you wear. They don't like, I don't know, maybe you were out at a bar one time, trying to flirt with their girlfriend and you don't even realize it, right? A lot of times people have biases against you that are real, that are solid, right? They will never effing hire you, but they would never say that. You were so drunk that night, you don't even remember the girlfriend, much less the bar, but they do, and it was from 1.5 years ago. But you keep going after that one thing because you're fixated. No, all I need to do is, it's like, no, all you need to do is invent a time machine, go back 1.5 years, not flirt with that guy's girlfriend, and then you'll be, but that's not gonna happen. So don't fixate on the particular opportunity. Because when you fixate on the opportunity, you can't see all of the other things that are around you. Now you're going to go out and you're going to be rejected a lot. You just keep going out there and you keep, like I say, you keep pounding the pavement, you keep putting out the resumes, you keep moving forward. Because again, all you need is a couple of successes, especially if you're in the employee, if you're trying to be an employee, you really only need one win. If you put out 1,000 resumes, all you need is one win, no matter how many rejections. You could have 10,000 rejections. As long as one person hires you for a better position, you're good. So you go out there. Now, the next thing you need to be thinking about with the rejection is when you are rejected, you should go back to the people or continue the conversation for just a little bit longer and in a very non-personal way, ask why you were rejected. And this is an important thing. This is one of the things that I guess me, having my weird little brain, my little Aspie brain, I've always done all my life, and apparently it is a strange thing. Apparently this is not what most people do. And I would say that's pretty stupid, right? So whenever I get rejected from anything, so like when I was at interviews, honestly, back when I had to be an employee, at the end of the interview, I could feel how the interview was going, right? Even as an Aspie, you can read how things are going. You get the drift, right? When people like you, they smile. When people are interested in you, they ask follow-up questions. If they're not really smiling at you and they're not asking follow-up questions, that means you probably bombed the interview. So one of the things that I always did is I would always simply ask. It's like, I just have the feeling this interview didn't go very well. Can I ask you, what is it about me that you're not finding interesting? And I completely understand. And that's one thing is you say, I'm not going to fight this. I'm not gonna load you with a whole bunch of BS. I can just see there's somewhere in this conversation I lost you, just so I know when I go to the next person, can I know what I did wrong? And so I remember I was at this, it was a startup company way back in like 2000 or whatever, and I was doing this one interview, and it was a job I really wanted, and it was a job I was actually qualified for. Oddly enough, unlike the job I ended up getting, which I wasn't qualified for. This job I was actually qualified for, but I was there. It was a startup company, and it was in the hipster part of town, and they had the nice building, and it was something that I could do. And we were going through the whole interview, and at the end of it, I could tell. I was like, I get the feeling this didn't go well. Can I just know where I lost you? And he said, well, honestly, it was when you didn't ask me about the remote procedure calls. And I was like, excuse me, right? So this company, what they did is they did this. They dealt with scientific data. Basically, but before big data was a big thing, they dealt with trying to deal with scientific data. And so they had their servers, and the servers communicated back and forth. And don't ask me how, but they used remote procedure calls to do whatever it was. That was very important for what they were doing. It was something that they special coded or whatever. And so he had been explaining this to me, and this was a very specialized thing that they did. And I remember, and he just looked at me. He's like, well, you didn't ask any more about remote procedure calls. That's an important part of how our servers do what they do. I explained it to you just a tiny bit, but you didn't ask any follow-on questions. And so basically what he said is that I wasn't interested enough in the company. This was a startup company. It was highly demanding. They were trying to go and take over the world. They ended up failing about a year later, but their plan was to take over the world. And so the fact that I sat there and I didn't ask follow-up questions about the technology that they were dealing with meant that I wasn't excited enough about the company. And therefore, they shoved me out the door. So using that, I didn't take it personally. Right, so I'm sitting there, I go through the whole interview, I realize it's going poorly, I ask what the issue is. They tell me, I say, thank you very much. We shake hands. I then ask a little follow-on, because it's me, Eli, the computer. Like, hey, by any chance, can I see your server room? Because at this point, I actually hadn't seen any real server rooms. And they take me through the whole server room, and they show it all to me. Because, again, I didn't take anything personally, so they still liked me. Got a whole tour of the server room, got a much better idea of what they did, even though I wasn't getting the job at that point. And then they booted me out the door. So from that experience, I got to find out why they didn't want me for the job. And I got to see some of this other stuff, because it was like, hey, cool. And so that was one of the lessons that I learned from that rejection. The takeaway from that rejection is anytime I went and I interviewed in the future, I always made sure to ask questions about their technology, right? Even if it was a stupid question. So, that file server over there, oh, that looks like a good file server, right? But that was the important lesson that I learned, is being interested in the company. So whenever you're being rejected, always ask about why you're being rejected so you can figure out how you may or may not change things. So that was my interview way back in the day. And so from that point on, what I learned is whenever I go into any kind of client or business interview, I always ask questions because that shows that I'm interested. And when you're interested, it's easier to close a sale. Now, on the other hand, I just had a gig that I got rejected for out in LA. So there was a company, technology company, two technology companies actually, I will leave the names out of. I don't like it. Anyways, I'll leave the names out of, right? And so these people call me up out of the blue, and there's a piece of technology that's coming out fairly shortly. And they said, we'd like you to do video, or we're getting a presentation together to sell to these companies for you to come out and do videos. So I was supposed to fly out on a Friday, or I was supposed to fly out, do work on a Friday, do a whole day, fly back here or wherever I was going, and then come back in August for like 3 days, right? So they say, you know, we really like your work, we really like you know, your presentation and all that. We really like your subscriber base. So we're trying to sell this pitch to these two companies that have hired us. You know, are you up for it? So I said, yeah, sure. I'm up for it. Sounds good, right? I'll be happy to fly out and, you know, whatever. And so basically with that, gets a little messy with the rejection, but finally I contact them, and I get the contact from them and find out I was rejected, right? Oh, they don't actually want you. And so, you know, one of the things I do, and so that's the end of their email. You've been rejected. You've been rejected. Move on. And so what I did, right, because I'm a business person, it's like, hey, okay, that's fine. That's cool. No problem. Just out of curiosity, can you tell me why I was rejected? And so basically, the person said, well, the two companies looked at the current videos you were doing, and the whole camp outdoor thing just isn't what they feel fits into their brand. So, oh, okay. Right? So basically, I can take that away and I can think about that. So what I am hearing now is that these big, major people that were going to pay me a chunk of money, they don't like the idea of me being out and being in this woodland environment talking about technology. And then I can decide whether or not I care. Personally, I decided I don't care, right? And that's one thing to realize, again, with any kind of advice, with any kind of this information, sometimes you change massively because of it. You know, again, talking to that one interview, how I have done interviews within the technology world ever since has been massively different. On the other hand, you know, if I am told that certain vendors don't want to see nature behind me in videos, then you think, do I care? And for that one, I don't care. But it's important to understand, and it shows you how other people actually see you, so that you can make decisions, and really make decisions. Because again, that's one of the problems that I see with so many of the new technology professionals, is you're not really making decisions. You're kind of like totally going by your gut. You know, what I want, what I want, what I want, what I want. And again, what you want is in fact important, and you should pay attention to what you want in life. But it's not all about what you want. What you need to be thinking about is you need to be eliciting these opinions from other people that may be purchasing your product, and seeing what they have to say about you. You know, sometimes some of the stuff they say, you may be like, well, I don't care about that. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. And then other things you may see and be like, oh, you know, it's pretty easy to change that. You know, that I could actually change. And are you telling me, like, if I changed that you would actually buy from me? Yeah? Oh, okay, right? And that's one thing, too. Again, you keep it out of the personal realm. Keep it out of the personal realm. You keep it all business. And that's one thing, too. So, right, so you approach the potential client, you approach your potential boss, you do whatever interview process, and then you get rejected. Right? And then after you get rejected, what you do is you just have that final little communication. Again, no problem. completely acceptable. I'm not worried about it. Hey, just out of curiosity, can you tell me why I'm being rejected? And then they're going to tell you, hopefully, why you're being rejected. Now, here's the one place where you can go back just one more time, is sometimes they will give you something that seems so utterly simple that you're going to be surprised that you didn't think about it, right? Sometimes their reason for rejecting you, you're just going to be like, oh. And maybe it's something that you actually do, you just didn't think about telling them. Or maybe it's something that you don't have a problem in the world doing, you just never thought about it, right? And so that's the one to point to. Again, if you ask why you're being rejected, if it is something that simple, you could go back and say, I can fix that. I have no problem fixing that. So especially if you're going to be doing IT services, right? You're going to do IT services, you're going out there, you're talking to a client. One of the points that may be brought up is, are you bonded or are you insured, right? Do you have insurance? Do you have general liability insurance? Do you have errors and omissions insurance? For the most part, a lot of small companies don't have it. They just don't worry about it at all. So you'll be like, you may just throw it out. You may not be thinking, you might say no. Right? And then you're going to get an email from them later saying, sorry to tell you, but yeah, we decided we're probably going to go with a different company. And then you can email them back and you're like, okay, that's cool. Just out of curiosity, why are you going to go with that other company? And they say, well, honestly, because of our insurance compliance, we have to hire only companies that have general liability insurance. So since you don't have general liability insurance, we just can't hire you. That's the point where you could come back and go, oh, wait a minute. To be honest with you, I've been meaning to get general liability insurance. It's just none of my other clients cared. So if this would seal the deal, if we could close a deal, if I get general liability insurance, I'll get that by the next week. And then that's one way you can also think about saving the sale. But again, you don't push it. You just kind of put it out there. You just say, man, I've been meaning to get general liability insurance. I just haven't quite done it yet. You know, if you can give me a week, and that might be a way to close a sale so you can move on. So that is one of the things to be thinking about, like I say, with all of this, with rejection and such, is again, it's just that conversation. It's communicating, it's learning, right? You should never walk away from any encounter not knowing more than you did before. Whether it's about yourself, whether it's about the company, you should always be trying to gather information so that you can figure how to do things better in the future. So that's one of the useful things, like I say, with the whole rejection issue. Because rejection, like I say, you're going to go out there and you're just going to get rejected again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And if you can just roll with it, if you can just go with the flow, it's not any big deal. It won't be any issue. But again, if you just get frozen because of the rejection, you're just like, well, that's not going to be any good. Now, the next thing with rejection, one of the things to be thinking about with rejection, is one of the issues, especially for new people out there, and even with consultants and all that, is one of the problems that we get into too in this world is we have this authoritarian complex. You see this a lot in the United States. It's weird. We're supposed to be a free country, and yet everybody's so worried about authority. And so we always have this idea, you know, I'm on the bottom and whoever else is on top. You know, the boss is on top, the client's on top. I'm always looking up to them and they are granting to me. It's considered that the power is at the top, and then they give you something. And again, is one of the things that I talk to you guys about in business, and especially in the technology business, is whenever you're interacting in business, that it should always be as a peer, or relatively close to being a peer. You should have deference for the CEO. You should have deference for the client. But professionally speaking, you should be peers. Again, even if this is a CEO of a major company, you're the one coming in to fix the servers. They may be the expert of their company. You're the expert of the server. You should come in, again, be peers. So one of the things to be thinking about also is, like, when you're dealing with rejection, is to think about how you feel about the rejection and whether or not you should continue going after these types of clients or these types of businesses. So this is where the issue comes up with me and this last thing with the TV shoots or whatever it's supposed to be, is so I've gotten a lot of calls from LA in the past year. Yeah, about a year. Probably 6 or 7 calls from LA. I've had 3 TV shows approach me, plus a lot of this other little stuff. And one of the things that I found dealing with people that are from LA is that they all seem to be assholes. Really. And I'm going to say that right there so that if anybody from LA is watching this, they don't call me anymore. Because you know what? I'm putting my foot down. That's one of the things I'm going to be telling you, right, with rejection. So these people from LA, they've called. I've got calls from television shows. I've got calls from all these other things. And basically what I found is that they always essentially screw me around, right? So I was supposed to be on the short list for 2 television shows. One of them even had me go out and get my passport. They're like, we need to do this. We need to do this get together in London. So make sure you have your passport. Get ready. We're going to call you, and then you need to hop on a plane. And the weird thing is, and the funny thing, is that whenever the project gets scrapped or whenever there is an issue, that people from LA do not believe that they need to call you. They just leave you hanging, quite literally, right? So with this last thing, with these major companies, I got this phone call, or I got the email message, and then I had the phone call with this company, and it was like Thursday. It was Thursday. They wanted me in LA the next Friday. So I only had like 8 days. Right before this. So, you know, my wife and I are traveling around the whole Silicon trailer thing. And so for me to get to LA, it's not simply as easy as going to the local airport. You know, I actually have to figure out where am I going to set up our little camp so that I can leave my wife and Tonto to fly off and then fly back. It's a bit bigger deal. So I'm talking to this person, they're like, yeah, we really like you. We really, you know, we like what you do. You're really perfect for this. So we want you to come out next Friday for a whole day. And then after that, in August, we want you to come out for 3 days. We do the negotiation for how much money I want. They're going to pay me just a huge chunk of money, and it's great. And so they say, you know, listen, this is good. We have a phone call with the client in about an hour, so we're trying to seal this up as soon as possible. So we'll call you back just as soon as you know, we've got everything settled for you. So great. So I'm sitting there, and you know, doing something like this, I have to have the conversation with my wife, because even though it's not settled yet, you know, we have to think, okay, well, where do we think we're going to be in a week? Where can we drive to? Where would I fly out of? How would I do this? Would I fly into LA a couple of days early? Would I stay a couple of days late? You know, there's all this planning stuff, and then I don't get a call that night. I'm like, oh, that's weird, but you know, business is business. And then I'll get a call the next day. At which point I realize what's probably happening. So the day after that is I email the guy and say, hey, what's going on here? You said you were on board with this. You said it was all great. It was all wonderful. Oh, yeah, I forgot to email you. Right? And so one of the things that you should be thinking about too is with the whole rejection process is one of the things with rejection is it also shows you who do you want to be dealing with. So again, I've dealt a decent amount with real media at this point. I used to be on the radio until they kind of screwed me over with that. I've dealt with these TV shows, I've dealt with this, I've dealt with the other thing. And what I have found is real media is basically full of assholes. And I'm just putting that out there bluntly as hell, because I don't want to deal with these people anymore. Like, they are such assholes that I want them to know I think they're assholes so that they stop calling me, because I am not going to deal with them going forward. So this final time was the last time where it's like, screw it, I'm done. And so that's one thing to also realize with things like rejection is that, remember, whenever you're doing any kind of business transaction, it's a two-party transaction. Their worldview and how they do things is important, but also how you do things is important. There's this problem with new people where they feel like they have to play by other people's rules. And again, that's what I deal with the LA people. I brought this up to a couple of LA people, and they're like, well, Eli, this is how we do things. It's like, well, great. I'm not doing it anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you guys want to be assholes, great. Do it off in LA. I'm not dealing with you. And that's one to be thinking about, is if you're going out and you're trying to do these business transactions and you're trying to close deals and you're getting rejected. You know, there are times where you figure out why you're getting rejected and you can go, oh, okay, that's how I need to modify my sales presentation, or maybe I can change some things. There are other times when you're getting rejected and you start thinking, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be dealing with these types of people anymore. Maybe I don't actually want these sales, And so again, that's one thing to be thinking about, is the power is not always in the other person. It's not they are 100% in control. It is supposed to be a relationship. It's a two-way street. So be thinking about that. You know, if you're being rejected by companies, do you still want to start, do you continue to want to deal with those types of companies or those types of people? You know, maybe if you're going out there and you're pounding the pavement and you find one area of your city is just full of people that you just don't want to deal with, then just focus on a different part of the city. Or maybe you're in your city and you realize that your city is all full of hipsters. Maybe you need to move to a different city. Go about it in a different way. Think about it as a two-way street. You are not entrapped by how other people want to do business. If they want to do business in ways that you don't want to do it, bugger them, right? It really is. It really is true. Now, one of the things, you know, we get this a lot now, especially in the modern world, is the question then becomes, you know, well, what about, Eli, how do you deal with rejection when people are being completely unreasonable? Right? What about when it's completely unreasonable? It's not about you not having general liability insurance. It's not about you having a certification. You know, it's because, you know, we have sexists in the world. It's because we have racists in the world. You know, I'm a woman, Eli, and people don't want to hire me to be a systems administrator. I'm a black person. People don't want to hire me to do whatever. One of the things that you just have to realize in the modern world is that, yes, sometimes, a lot of times, a stupid amount of times, you may be rejected, and you probably will be rejected for stupid reasons. People are just not going to want to deal with you for whatever reason it is. But again, as I've said before, you cannot fail. You can only give up. And in the modern world, especially in the technology world, it is becoming less and less relevant what you look like, who you are, your skin color, your sexuality, and all those kind of things, right? As more and more things get turned into web apps, as more and more things get turned into services where you don't even see the CEO, you don't even see who the customer relationship people are, it becomes less and less important, all of these things that may have held you back in the past. So one of the things, again, to be thinking about is, yes, it may be more difficult, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right. I am not saying it's good, but you have to go out there and you just have to keep pushing through. Every single day, go out there, you know, pound the pavement, talk to people, because again, you only need a couple of successes. If you want to be an employee, you only need one win. You only need one person to want to hire you, right? So there is somebody out there that will want to hire you. You just have to keep going out there and keep going at it until you find it, right? And so that's an important thing, because again, I see this a lot, especially being in the Baltimore area. It's like, well, what if people just won't hire somebody like me? And you just keep going out there, because there will be somebody. And again, if you can't find it here, then you move on to the next, then you move on to the next, then you move on to the next. That is where drive will take you. Because again, maybe you're in a city, or maybe you're in a state, maybe you're in a country, and they're just not hiring people like you for that position. Now here's the thing: is do you really want to do technology business? Is this really your drive? Is this really your passion? That's a question you have to ask. And if it really is your drive and it really is your passion, then maybe you have to move. Maybe you have to leave. That's one of the big problems that I see is, again, it's that whole thing of people hitting their head against the wall. I want to be a system administrator in Baltimore. I want to be a system administrator here in this place. It's like, but there aren't any jobs here. So one of the things you have to be thinking about is again, maybe it's not in Baltimore, maybe it's in North Dakota. Again, North Dakota, I don't know how it's going right now, but it was having the whole shale oil boom. So there are lots and lots of jobs there. So maybe if you're here in Baltimore and your resume isn't good enough to get a job in Baltimore, maybe you go off to North Dakota for 2 years, you get your experience there, and then you come back, so that you're always progressing. So that's an important thing, is you just have to keep going out there. You just have to keep hammering away. And if you get to the end of all the people to talk to, if you can get to the end, then figure out how you can find more. Again, here in Baltimore, if you can't do what you want here, Northern Virginia, which actually isn't that far away, an hour and a half away, that's a massive hub of technology, right? There's Oracle down there, and Microsoft's down there, and Google's down, all these major tech companies. So maybe you just have to move a little bit. These are the kinds of things that you have to think about with rejection. But as long as you don't give up, that is the big thing. So that's a thought. That's a thought of rejection as a technology professional. The important things is don't take it personal. Do not take it personal. The moment you take it personal, you lost. You lost, right? Don't take it personal. It's nothing but a thing. It doesn't matter if they're a-holes to you. It doesn't matter. What you need to be thinking about is from the business relationship, how do you feel? So you're going to go out there, you're going to talk to 100 people, you're going to talk to 1,000 people, you're going to talk to 10,000 people. Some people will be nice, some people won't be so nice. You just got to keep going. Again, the issue that I see with people taking things personally is they go out there, they take the rejection, they take it personally, and one of two things happen. Either they take it as a mark against themselves. I am not a worthy human being. And then it's just over. Right? I don't care who you are. The moment you start thinking you're not a worthy human being, game over. Right? As I talked about before, that whole thing with, in order for other people to love you, you have to love yourself. In order for other people to invest in you, you have to invest in yourself. And that's the same thing. In order for other people to respect you, you got to respect yourself. If you're walking around and you're like, I am cool, I am awesome, other people, it may not be this person, maybe it'll not be the next person, somebody's going to pick up on that and be like, wow, I want to hire this person. If you take the rejection, you go, all right, I'm stuck, I'm horrible, you're right, I probably won't be a good computer repair person anyway, right? Nobody's going to hire them. Right? So don't take it personal, just keep going. The other thing, again, is don't get into an argument. Don't turn it personal with the person that rejected you. Well, you do have to remember, again, it's a numbers game on both sides. It's a numbers game for you, but again, for the employer or for the person, the person that might be your client, it's also a numbers game for them. If they're trying to hire an IT services company, they may have 10 different names that they're looking at. The reasons that they pick any one person may not have a whole hell of a lot to do with anything that you can do anything about, right? It may be the type of thing where you're like, oh, that company didn't hire me, they're assholes. And it may be that the CEO was looking and was thinking, well, this one IT company is owned by my wife's brother. So, you know what, I'm going to hire them just because it'll make the wife happy. That's the kind of thing that happens in the real world. So if you turn that into a personal argument, how dare you not hire me? Well, now I'm going to hate you, right? Because if you don't make it personal, I may hire my brother-in-law to do IT support. That IT support will blow up in about 6 months because that's how things work when you hire people because they're your brother-in-law. And then I'll be looking for another IT person. And then if you haven't pissed me off, if you hadn't made it personal, I may then call you back up and say, hey, yeah, the IT services company went with, they didn't work out so well. Can you come back in? So don't take it personal. So you're going to go out there, you're going to deal with a zillion people. You're not going to take it personal at any way. The thing, again, whenever you get rejected, simply ask why you get rejected, just so you know. And again, some people may tell you, it might be like, honestly, you seem like you have a really good proposition. I really like your price points, but honestly, man, my wife has been writing me about her damn brother for like the past year. So I'm just going to give this guy a shot because it's going to make the wife happy. Now, that may seem like it's a blow off. That may not seem valuable, but it actually is valuable. Because what you're hearing from that CEO is saying, you do have a valuable proposition. I actually do like you. Your price point is correct. I have to hire this other person because of these things that you can't do anything about. So you can walk away and go, hey, I'm doing pretty good, right? I have a solid product to sell. Whereas maybe the CEO says, everything seems pretty good, but again, you don't have general liability insurance or this or that. And then you can take that away and go, do I need to get general liability insurance? Maybe I do. And then the final thing, again, as I say, with rejection, do not beat your head against the wall. With business, especially technology business, it really should be relatively easy. It should be relatively smooth. If you're banging your head against the wall, it means you're probably running into problems that you can't solve anyway. Again, I see this a lot, with people, they're with a company and they want to move up in their career, but they will only take another position in the company. It's like, but there are no other positions in the company. maybe you need to leave, go to another company, and then come back once you have the experience. That's one thing people don't think about, right? You know, remember, IT careers, especially mine, look something like this, right? We're all dancing. We're all kung fu fighting, dancing. Wah, right? And that's what so maybe if you're like, no, Eli, but I really like this company. This is a really good company. Well, if you're at a help desk, and you want a better job with the company that you're at, maybe what you need to do is you need to go be a system administrator at another company, do that for a year or two, and then come back, right? So instead of going from help desk to desktop support to system administrator, project manager in your company, maybe if you really like that company, what ends up needing to happen is you go from help desk, you go over to be a system administrator at a different company, you move up, and then you come back as a project manager. I've seen that happen a lot, right? Where people are just like, oh man, I always loved this company, but to get ahead in my career, I had to go somewhere else. Once I got enough credentials, right? There's more than enough people that want to be system administrators and are qualified to be system administrators, but to be project managers or directors or whatever, there may actually be less competition up there. And then again, like I say, with the beating your head against the wall, is, you know, if you're in a geographic location, I see this with a lot of you guys, where you're like, Eli, what do I do? There are no jobs. You're like, well, move. Right? You guys all think I can like wave a wand. Oh, you're in Mozambique and you need a system administrator job. Alakazam. System administrator job is there, right? If you're in a place and there are not jobs for what you're looking for, then maybe you need to move, and you need to be honest about that. Again, like I say, here in the United States, we have racism and all this horrible, nasty stuff. So if you're an African American and you're in Baltimore and you don't feel like you can get ahead, you know you're smart, you know you have drive, you know you have motivation, but people just aren't returning your calls, right? People just aren't accepting you for the jobs. Maybe you need to look at going to Atlanta for 4 or 5 years. Again, the same thing with that whole, you know, moving to a different company in order to get ahead. Maybe, you know, they say down in Atlanta, you know, it's much more, they're doing much better with race down in Atlanta than they are here up in Baltimore. So maybe you move down to Atlanta for 4 or 5 years. You actually get a chance there because they're not the bastards we are up here. You get 4 or 5 years experience, and then you can come back to some place like Baltimore, and now you're not a noob that's trying to get a job. You're somebody with 5 years experience that people say, I actually want to hire that person, right? These are the types of things you need to be thinking about. You know, if you're just sitting there and you're banging your head against the wall and all you're getting is rejection, 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 keep going, but then think about, like, you know, is there something else I can do? What if I move to Atlanta? What if I move to Miami? What if I move to Korea? Maybe, is there a different way I can attack this? Is there a different angle? And just keep going from there. Because that is the reality. Remember, you can't fail, more or less. You can really only give up. So really the question is how do you just keep moving forward? And then the final thing, again, the final thing, as I say with almost all of these videos, is maybe sometimes you should give up. And this is an important thing, right? Nobody else, I don't think anybody else there tells you this, or is at least so blunt as I am about it. Sometimes you should give up, right? If you're out there and you're trying to sell your idea, if you're trying to sell your project, and you talk to 1,000 people and everybody thinks it's stupid, maybe that's telling you something, right? And that's something to think of, because again, everybody gets that hard-headed, you know, that thing in their head. This is what I'm gonna do. When you go out there and you're like, nobody wants this. Nobody wants this. Nobody's willing to pay for it. Nobody's even slightly interested. You go out there, you've done your sales pitch 100 times, and nobody's even said, you know, I would buy that if it was 50% off. You know, if people are looking at you like, yeah, no, I'd never buy that. Maybe giving up and finding a different option is a way to go. So there we go. There we go. Those are the thoughts. The thoughts on rejection. Rejection is huge in our field. You're just going to get rejected again and again and again, thousands and thousands and thousands of times. But, you know, you just keep moving. That's the whole thing. You just keep going with it. It's no big deal. Rejection is fine. Don't take it personal. It's so sad. I see so many of the folks out there, especially the viewers, they take all this stuff so personally. And that's, you know, I tell you guys, it's like if you're taking, especially if you're taking me personally, truly, I would just to be blunt here, if you're taking me personally, and you've only even seen me on video, you've never even met me in real life, again, I just don't think you're going to be doing well in this field, right? Because it is just so much rejection. rejection. And it's not always for good reasons either. Truly, it's not always for good reasons. You know, even when you get the job, there's so much rejection that, yeah, it's just par for the course. So, say that with rejection, just learn to take it, just learn to accept it, keep moving on, make modifications as need be. Do make sure, again, to talk with people again. Why just so I know, why was I rejected? They're gonna tell you, and then figure out how you feel about that. Oh, maybe that's a good point. Maybe that is something I need to change, or maybe they're just complete idiots. And go on from there. There we go. That is 1 hour and 4 minutes about rejection. I think that's long enough. So I'll leave you guys tonight, and hopefully in the next video will be from Saranac Lake, New York.